Hello and welcome to another anniversary episode of the Thom and Joe Show. Today we'll be in 1984 because we could have done this entire season on albums from 1984. I mean, 1984 is a ridiculously stacked year in music.
Big Brother is pumping out the hits.
Yeah, it's like we got ironically 1984 by Van Halen, Ocean Rain by Echo and the Bunnymen, Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen, Purple Rain, the soundtrack to the film of the same name, The Unforgettable Fire by U2, and so on and so forth. And it was difficult to narrow this down to one album, and my shortlist for 1984 was two heavy metal albums from 1984. One of them was Power Slave by Iron Maiden, which almost made it onto the list. I mean, it would be fun to talk about more Iron Maiden, but today we are talking about Metallica's second studio album, Ride the Lightning, which came out on this day, the 27th of July, 1984, 40 years ago. Yeah, it's Metallica time.
Yes, it is time for you to do a whole lot of talking.
It's time for me to talk about one of my favourite heavy metal bands for a long period, while Joe occasionally interjects and we talk about some Metallica. Do I need to explain who Metallica are? Shall I do the rundown?
I mean, you can do that, yeah. But the more you talk about the people, the less interesting they get.
Yeah. The Metallica are an American heavy metal band from California. They are one of the big four of thrash metal, which contains them, Megadeth, which we will inevitably come on to talk about briefly because, yeah, Dave Mustaine is part of this story. Hello, it's him again. Slayer and Anthrax. They have been going since the early 1980s. Their lineup since about 2003, 2004 has been James Hetfield on guitars, Kirk Hammett on lead guitar, Lars Ulrich on drums, and Rob Trujillo on bass. This is not the lineup we will be talking about. We will be talking about arguably the the lineup that everyone seems to like, which has Cliff Burton on bass. Anyway, where do we start with this record? So
and
metal...
do not call him Cliffy B.
Cliffy B, no. Metallica fans will kill you. Anyway, so Ride the Lightning is really the sort of the first of what, So I think we need to go back a little bit. Heavy metal in the 1980s is sort of a weird place to be. There is you have got legacy bands from the first wave. So Metallica sort of basically start off as a band that sort of take the sound of, hardcore punk, so bands ironically like Black Flag. I mean, we could have talked about Black Flag because this 2024 is the 40th anniversary of Black Flag's My War, which is probably the best album they ever did, at least the best album they did with Henry Rollins, but there we go. So Metallica basically took influence from the new wave of British heavy metal, which I'm not going to try and say the acronym, but that's bands like, ironically enough, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, etc., etc. A lot of bands usually from the industrial sort of north or inner city, the big cities in the UK. They basically take heavy metal and they go, this has become a little bit silly. I mean, this is the point at which Black Sabbath are making stuff like Tear, and the era where it's Tony Iommi and anyone Tony Iommi has within reach, and it's got a little bit silly and it's all got a little bit over the top, And it's sort of basically, ironically enough, 1984 is also the year that Spinal Tap came. This is Spinal Tap came out.
Yes, this is Spinal Tap. I was going to mention that. Which if you look at the album art and then you look at what they're dressed like, Metallica looks a little bit like Spinal Tap.
Yeah,
but they wouldn't become Spinal Tap until about a decade and a half later.
Yeah. Well, it would at least 1991, where they went and released an album that was non-blacker than that could be no more black. We'll eventually get to talk
none
about
more black.
None more black. Anyway, so basically Metallica start with Lars Ulrich, who is, as the name may suggest, Danish. Yes, he's from Denmark. He is basically a young sort of like fan of all this brilliant, gooey sort of American, British heavy metal, bands like Diamond Head and Saxon that sort of making its way over from the UK. It's fast, it's intense, it's like. And Lars goes, I want to start a band. And so he writes in a newspaper, a free sheet newspaper in the Bay Area, and goes, I am starting a band. Do you want to be in my band? And the answer to that article, answered by a guitarist called James Hetfield. And so we begin our story. So yeah, basically Metallica sort of form over about or coalesce, I think is best to say, over about the next year and a half. They then sort of obviously release demos in obviously which sort of are part of a larger scene that is happening in this. They aren't the only people who are listening to British heavy metal and going, I can do that, but I can do it faster and heavier. And you obviously get other bands from that era. And then the sort of the lineup sort of coalesces with obviously James, with obviously the two obviously we've spoken already. Cliff Burton, who is a bassist from a band called Trauma, on bass after a gentleman called Ron Govney leaves the band, and a guy called Dave Mustaine on guitar. This does not last.
No, it doesn't last.
In what will become like a commonality for Metallica, he fucking leaves the band, or rather, he's kicked out of the band because he is a massive alcoholic and drug user. Metallica sort of keep a few of his riffs, and when Dave Mustaine goes and forms his own band called Megadeth, some of the riffs that are on the first two Metallica albums, particularly on Kill 'Em All, sort of do resurface in a different format and more along the way that Mustaine plays them. Metallica then recruit Kirk Hammett, who is the guitarist for a band called Exodus, and they record Kill 'Em All, and Kill 'Em All is fine. It's an okay album. It is basically the sound of 19-year-olds making a heavy metal album, and it is like, I will come on to sort of talk about like how distressingly young Metallica were when they recorded Ride the Lightning, but Kill 'Em All, they're like 19, 18, and it's like, this is it is a very adolescent record. It's sort of slightly muddy production. It's like 95% of the songs are either about demons or getting drunk or getting in fights or the coolness of listening to heavy metal, man. It's very much the sort of like, there is the old Metallica adage, bang the head that doesn't bang, which is basically, hey, like, half that first album is basically, this is what we're doing when we're not being recording the songs. We're going out, we're picking fights, we're headbanging to heavy metal music, and then there's like the Four Horsemen, which is about the apocalypse, which is like, Jump in the Fire, which is about demons, and it's just like parked among these sort of other songs which are like, hey, it's and that sort of basically, I feel, typifies the early Metallica. There is like Ride the Lightning, sort of, obviously we'll come on to talk about in a tiny bit, is a big step up. It's like,
they looked at the Four Horsemen thing and said, let's do that.
Let's do lots and lots
Let's do, like, the really epic Led Zeppelin, but make it metal.
Yeah. Yeah, and so they record, you know, Kill 'Em All, they go on tour, they tour it, they basically then, you know, go to Europe, and it's like, hey, you know, we're bringing basically, you know, metal back to Europe, you're ready bringing that, and, you know, along the way, they are, as sort of a lot of heavy metal bands, obviously as Metallica, and a lot of bands, you know, generally do, they are demoing sort of, like, other new songs, which is like, you know, over this tour, and, you know, they basically, and then they go, right, we've done the tour, we've gone to Europe, time for album number 2. And off they go to Copenhagen. It's fucking freezing. Yeah, like, so I've got the book, which is a very good book about Metallica, which is not quite their authorized biography. There's a lot more band, you know, work in it, or, you know, there's a lot more interviews in it, which is very good, which I do recommend, which is in 2 volumes, which is called Birth School Metallica Death, which is, you know, a t-shirt slogan off one of their t-shirts during the Black Album period. And what 95% of what Lars Ulrich remembers about this, the recording this album was, it's fucking freezing in Denmark, it's December, it's fucking cold, I want to go home, oh wait, this is home. It's fucking cold. So there's been a few sort of like little things, so I think it's kind of important to note Metallica are not at that, like, you know, stage where they are, you know, I don't think they will really be at the stage of being, you know, arguably the best band, you know, the biggest heavy metal band, really, until, you know, we're talking the And Justice for All era, which is like when they're selling out stadiums. They have built a reputation, the reputation is good, but they are sort of like living hand to mouth, large, you know, alcohol consumption, etc., and this sort of like coalesces with Metallica's gear just being stolen. It's just stolen, everything gets stolen, they borrow stuff off Anthrax, you know, and, you know, during this period Metallica are sort of, you know, they're gaining confidence. I think it's fair to say, you know, the thing is with, obviously, you know, the whole thrash metal scene is, it is very nascent. It is, you know, most bands in this scene, unless they're like hangovers from, you know, they are either British heavy metal bands, or, you know, they've been ahead of the curve, are like, you know, 2 years old ish. You know, this is a very new scene, and, you know, there's a lot of stuff which is, you know, like, basically they're all 20-somethings who have long hair, and they drink a lot, and it's like, you know, they don't have a lot of money, and this scene, you know, won't become massive really until, you know, at least Master of Puppets comes out in the year of 1986. Anyway, so they go to Denmark, and this is where the kind of like so, you know, Kill 'Em All is a very well produced out. It is a very roughly produced album. In places it is, you know, it sounds like a band playing basically live to tape, and Metallica are not used to like the whole recording process of, you know, doing an album in a studio. I feel it's, yeah.
And they never really do, to a certain extent. There's always the feeling that, you know, they don't mix it. They're not, like, figuring out, like the Beatles, how to use all of their recording stacks, and they're not, you know, innovative. They're just, you know, Metallica. They're going to melt your face off and, you know, maybe mess with it a little bit, but then call it a day.
Yeah, they don't really start doing, what I would call using, the whole using the studio as an instrument, certainly until Puppets, and certainly, and Justice for All is an album that I don't think works without the ability to manipulate sound in the studio. The particular stylistic sound of Unjustice for All is not, recreatable easily in a live environment. And obviously you then get into like the Black Album, and the recording for the recording for Ride the Lightning is 29 days. It takes Metallica a year and a half to make the Black Album, which should indicate, the economies of scale and what they are. These are basically, this is get in the studio, put stuff on the record, go. This is like, right, now we have more, now we have, an entirely new set of songs to play on the road. I mean, we've been playing half of this on the road already, fine, yeah, great, and, that. What it is kind of also really obvious is that basically this is the start of, like, how Metallica writes songs. So Metallica have a very particular songwriting process, and it's one of the things that I find where people will knock Lars Ulrich and they go, oh, what, Lars is a really crap drummer. Yeah, but Lars' arranging skills, like, of going through and going, right, we've got 8 riffs that sound really good, right, now let's create a song out of this, and it's like, I at the same time, Lars Ulrich is basically, has no idea how drumming works. It's like, so the producer for this is a gentleman called Flemming Rasmussen. He is a very Danish name, as you can tell. He produced a lot of, so basically Ulrich listens to an album called Difficult to Cure by Rainbow. I think this is by the point at which Dio, Ronnie Dio has left, Rainbow. This is like, and Lars goes, that sounds really good. Can we have him, please? And then they go to, obviously his studio in Copenhagen, and he's then with the band for the next 3-4 albums, and he does some other stuff, but his work with Metallica, and to a lesser extent his work with German heavy metal band Blind Guardian, is really his sort of like his main claim to fame. But yeah, that's that's basically, they are learning how the sort of from the sort of the put it on tape sort of sensibility of Kill 'Em All. They are sort of learning, okay, this is how song arranging works, and okay, some of these songs are ready to go, some of these songs are basically, right, we're putting them together in the studio, and there is it is very much as I said, I think there is the key thing to sort of think with this album is the jump up in barely a year is astonishing. I mean, so basically Kill 'Em All comes out in July 25th, 1983. Ride the Lightning comes out 2 days and a year after that. This is like, the sort of same sort of, jump up that you're seeing in sort of like the early Beatles records, when they're going from like, here are some like 15, here are like 8 covers and 2 original songs, to, yeah, here's Help,
Revolver. Yeah.
Here's I mean, we're talking a slightly longer time scale than that, but yeah. So there's not really. This is another album where there's not really much to say. The most interesting thing about this is basically the label buggeration that's going on in the background. Metallica are also sleeping in the studio because they literally cannot afford a hotel. Yeah, they have like no money, money. So Metallica, they basically, there are various things, and various record labels are starting to circle. The album was meant to cost $20,000. It actually was $30,000. That's about $92,000 in this day and age, and and Metallica basically eventually join Elektra, and Elektra put this album out, and there's a lot of craziness in the background, and it's they are evolving so quickly that it's a little bit like head turning how quickly they are going from 2,000 people stadium to like opening for fairly big bands. I mean, the tour that they do for Ride the Lightning, basically they then headline tours, and they're going around with bands like Wasp, and this is sort of thing, and basically by August of next year, they're like opening festivals like Monsters of Rock and appearing like halfway up the set line, next to like Bon Jovi. This is how quickly they're evolving as a band. Anyway, shall we get started track by track then, Joe?
Sure.
Or do you want to?
I don't mean to seem like I am making fun or making too many jokes at Metallica's expense here, because I don't know. I don't want to interrupt your historical,
ramblings.
I mean, you interrupt me all the time because the way my ADHD works is it goes run on sentence after run on sentence.
Yeah.
Don't think I haven't noticed this. I understand.
Yeah.
I am getting better little by little. But Metallica has always existed since I have been sentient. And they have always, they have been like essences. They have been like a part of nature since I was alive. There was not a day in my life since I can remember where you could turn on the radio and there wasn't at least 1 or 2 Metallica songs a day. I mean, at the peak you can get to like 5. And the radio station that's near where I work does a double shot of Metallica at 5 o'clock every day.
Bloody hell.
So, yes. So, the weirdest thing about it is I have never felt the need to have a Metallica album because they are there. They will always be there. You don't need to buy one to listen to it because you literally, even before Napster, you had no lack of ability to listen to Metallica because they were there. It is like I don't want to be sacrilegious, but it's like they are gods who exist. There's a thing.
There's a thing to Metallica. I don't think that in the modern sphere, I think there's another metal. I mean, the only thing I can compare it to in terms of the longevity and the general thing is honestly the Rolling fucking Stones, which is basically it's that level of omnipresence and that level of commercial and critical kudos, and it's yes, they did their best work years ago, and they are living on past laurels, and some of them are no longer with us, and there is, but the thing is, Metallica, I think, really, let's be fair, I don't think the same thing would be happening for, Megadeth or, Black Sabbath or Iron Maiden. You're not going to switch on, American MOR radio and go, here's all 7 minutes of killing, here's all 7 minutes of 7 minutes of Into the Void by Black Sabbath. You're not going to get that. The only band I would say that really have that I feel perhaps are sort of on that ilk are Iron Maiden, and Maiden do it in a very different way, in the fact that obviously Maiden sort of pre-exist Metallica by years, and and they basically invented British heavy metal, and their fan base is just hello, here is in all of South America. you know, they exist in a different sphere to Metallica. They would probably the only band I could say pound for pound that could go, you know, you could directly compare to Metallica in terms of pure longevity and, you know, influence on the genre,
especially in metal. Because when I compared them to Zeppelin, but I mean they don't sound like Zeppelin at all. But
they don't
much
sound like
more
that,
Iron
no.
Maiden, and especially in narrative form where they are overlooking like these grand things, like these battles or. You know, the afterlife, or you know, living in life in hell.
Everybody loves
stuff. But
I mean, hell is more Slayer's thing, but it's like hell.
Yeah, I know. But I was literally quoting one from Metallica.
Oh
but
no, absolutely. That's the thing. Yeah.
It like that kind of like size and scope for metal is, and how they go about it. Like, they do not put themselves so much into the music, and as obviously Todd in the Shadows goes for Saint Anger, like, when they do put themselves into it, it does not go well.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that 72 Seasons, which is their most recent album out last year, kind of, I like, bucks the trend, but it is, you know, okay, yeah, James had a really bad alcohol problem, and, you know, hey, you know, that therapy that you sort of harumphed that like 20 years ago, yeah, that might have actually helped, James. Maybe you should have actually like done. And then he's obviously like become a bit weird and a little bit like stern, you know, authoritarian father who, you know, it's like yeah. James is not my favorite metal. No
every
fun.
Every Gen X person who like weren't going to become this when they grew up, and they grew up exactly like this.
Hey man, I want you to like, you know, be careful and you know, don't go out after night, man. Anyway, and that's the thing, you know.
Dad.
Yeah, it's like I'm never gonna grow up and be you. Oh no, oh dear, I
did. Oh no, I grew up and it became exactly this person.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
The other thing I would say about like this era of Metallica, this is before like, you know, Master of Puppets, which is just, I mean, I feel we're talking about Master of Puppets in a couple of years because it's flawless. It is just like, it's basically like, here, this is like the blueprint to make a heavy metal a heavy metal album in the 80s.
The reason I used like Led Zeppelin 4 is because Stairway to Heaven, like, you have to play the whole song, and if you play an edited version, you are doing it wrong.
Yep.
And no radio stations will clear that runway for people except like that song and Master of Puppets and, you know, a few other Metallica songs, like one.
You need all 8 minutes of Master of Puppets at 5 in the afternoon. It's the best way to leave work. Anyway, so I think we need to sort of very, very quickly talk about like how this record sounds, because like, you know, obviously thrash metal is a bigger church and a bit of wider genre. And here is going to be my one criticism of this record. James does sound like he is about 20.
And he also kind of sounds like he's a little away from the mic, or they're just they're not really caring about mixing him with the band at this point, so he sounds a little bit in the background.
Yeah, there is and I think it's the biggest jump up between how like this sounds and how Master of Puppets is sound. Is Master of Puppets is really square mix, really, you know, well mixed. You know, you can hear everything. Everything is, you know, it's got that very nice, like vertically done mix, and you know, James's voice is a lot stronger again. And you know, the thing is with Ride the Lightning is it's got a slightly, how do I word this? A slightly brittle sound. It's very icy. You know, the record sounds cold. You know, which given, you know, ice and, you know, nuclear apocalypse and, you know, other thing, you know, and, you know, it sound, there is an edge to this, and I mean everything, bizarrely enough, everything I think on this album is slightly tuned out of standard. It's like there's something just above or just around standard. It's not a perfect on the thing standard. I think it's slightly above standard, and it gives the entire record this slightly brittle, very icy sound. So what it also does, as we'll go through this, is it does kind of set the formula for how Metallica sequence and how Metallica sort of like do a record from this point onwards. I think certainly in their thrash metal incarnation. Shall we begin?
Sure.
So the first track on this album, which is Fight Fire with Fire. Fight Fire with Fire is, the typical. So for about the next 3 albums, Metallica will go, right, album starts with acoustic guitar, or in the case of And Justice for All, a backwards guitar, and it's like, hey, these are our neoclassical chops, man. We're going to play a little bit of, acoustic guitar, and then we're going to go into like a heavy metal riff, and it's like, it's pretty much where they. It's pretty much, despite the really nice. So the acoustic guitar in the beginning by this is played by, and the riff is written by Cliff Burton. This is Cliff's second Metallica song. The first song he wrote was Anesthesia Pulling Teeth, which is a bass only. There is going to be a lot of bass moments on this album. There's a very moment this is this is where Cliff Burton sort of takes in his composer / lead bassist sort of thing, and runs with it for a lot. Fight Fire with Fire is about nuclear war. It's about mutually assured destruction, and it sort of starts the Metallica thing of going, right, first track on the album has the nice acoustic opening, and then it's like really fast riffs, basically carrying on, although far more competently from where where Kill 'Em All sort of came off. This is a great song. It's a good album opener. It's it's that
it's like this is pretty, and then we're all gonna die, and then we get that I don't know. It's a feeling of a Metallica song starting. That's kind of like how everybody says a tornado sounds like a freight train, and then it's like, oh, here's Metallica to rock your face off.
Yes,
that's kind of the feeling that you get from their songs for quite some time.
Yeah, it's that dude. They're this. Obviously all the guitars.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, dun dun dun.
And that Beavis and Butthead would headbang.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's just basically you could have the little bit of right, we're gonna play the acoustic opening off tape. This is what the same thing they did for Battery, obviously, which obviously opens Master of Puppets, where it's like a really nice acoustic opening. Oh yeah, it's gonna now melt your face off. I like Fight with Fire. It's a perfectly fine opening. It's a Metallica opening track. I mean, what more do you want? But it is also immediately we have a maturity, at least in topic. I don't the lyrics themselves do sort of float between quite profound and very adolescent on this. I mean, we have to remember, the oldest person in the band at this point is Cliff Burton, and he is 22. These are not song lyrics written by, people who have, written, and, obviously we'll get to that, Master Puppets, again, I think is where Master Puppets is sort of marked out, is its lyrical maturity, and it's now we're a little bit older, it's things are really dark, and here's a song about how the military industrial complex and televangelists. It's there, it's hey, it's 1984, basically we could die at any point. Here is a song about that.
Yes.
There is a very
Puckets, the Minneapolis metal scene. And that's the joke for the two of you who remember the Minnesota Twins from the 90s. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Your senior citizen discount is available at the front desk. Let's move on to Ride the Lightning, the title track. So, Ride the Lightning is a Stephen King reference. It is from The Stand. I'm actually reading The Dark Tower at the moment, which features the same villain as The Stand. It's very good. It's as a quote from The Stand. I mean, this isn't the last literary reference that will be on this album. This is about the misery of the criminal justice system, and the electric chair. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Justice will come back, in a big way on And Justice for All. This is the album. This is the song I think Hetfield's voice really struggles on. There's like the mimetic, my fingers grip with fear, and it doesn't sound like fingers. It sounds like the Robotnik noise from the bad DIC song. It sounds like Dick. It sounds like
the instrumentation kind of takes this song over when it should be vocals first, because this is like, I am fucking dying because of the electric chair. Like, the intensity of the voice isn't there. Like, this is a really good song. I'm just saying, like,
oh no, absolutely.
For this one, it doesn't work for this one as it does like Under the Ice.
Yeah, it does. I do. By the way, I do love the album cover of Ride the Lightning. It's one of those like quintessentially metal album covers I've seen.
If you don't get the subtle hint in the lyrics of what it's about, they'll put an electric chair on the front.
Yeah. Really fun. Yeah. Yeah, it's about the electric chair. I mean, Ride the Lightning. Yeah, you're getting executed via the electric chair. Really fun thing about the album cover. There's about 500 or 600 copies that misprinted. You may obviously, Metallica fans will go, yes, the green edition. That misprinted everything as green. The problem is that a lot of the green editions are, in fact, Russian bootlegs. So if you ever come across like a green version of this, and they mysteriously have like 2 or 3 of them, yes, it's probably a Russian bootleg. It is a very cool cover, though. I mean, it's this cover has adorned. This cover has adorned like band jackets everywhere, and there are like t-shirts. I mean, I saw a t-shirt of it today, which should indicate how omnipresent this album cover is. I like it. It's cool. It's also that the first time we will see the proper like spiky 3D Metallica logo, which will then adorn like everything up until the moment they go, oh yeah, actually, do you know what? Sounding like a standard rock band will just do nicely, and yeah. So I mean, it's a fucking cool cover, and it's like they'll only improve on like the formula with like Master Puppets, which is just like one of the like 5 best heavy metal album covers. Which is just like ridiculously famous, but anyway, so I mean, Ride the Lightning is certainly the weakest Metallica title track. I'm gonna be frank on that. It's like, it's fine. It's one of their songs.
Anger.
Saint Anger. Okay, the second worst Metallica. Okay, fine. Yeah, we're not gonna
broach that topic. Where it's just like, I don't want it to not be said.
Oh yeah, it's like okay. Of the classic Metallica albums, it is like when you compare this to like all 9 and a bit minutes of And Justice for All and Master of Puppets, it's like, yes, I am definitely in the same club as these 2 songs. Course you are, Ride the Lightning. Course you are. How are your fingers, by the way? Yeah, but this is where Kirk Hammett's sort of guitar like heroing. Considering he doesn't actually play any of the rhythm guitar tracks on this, he is just playing those solos, and he does earn his crust playing the solos on these, and they are very good. Shall we talk about For Whom the Bell Tolls?
one of their most famous songs of all time and infinitely influential, and it's just like,
wow.
it is very strange to even just go through video game history and like, oh god, you definitely listened to this song at this time, even though you were Japanese and have been like tens of thousands of miles away from this, because like I remember I listened to the song and I'm like, that's the level 2 music in Bad Dudes. Or Otherworld from Final Fantasy X. The metal thing they play at a water polo.
Oh god.
And like
Blitzball.
Blitzball, yeah. Like not the Blitzball theme, but Otherworld, like at the beat from the first hour of the game. But it is like, you cannot like understate how much this has reached everywhere. Like they play this at football games. Every time you get to third down, there's the bell ringing from whom the bell tolls, and how much extra they want to put in depends on who's operating the sound. But it is it is everywhere and everything, and it feels like the first Metallica song to do that.
Yeah. So we start off with obviously the bell toll, which is apparently just a random sample that Lars came across, and then you get the bass solo on. This is not Cliff's only bass solo on the album. We'll get to his other like moment of glory on later in the record. But it's just like, that down wow 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 do do do, the sort of thing that every bassist worth their salt goes, I wanna learn how the fuck to make that noise. It's like, that's, and obviously it's live. This is even better because obviously you get, particularly now with Rob Trujillo, who is like obviously, a guy who uses a lot of slap bass and a lot of has techniques that like flamenco stuff. You get these sort of like little intro bits, and he's like, he's doing a little bass on a diddly 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 diddly, he's gonna play Hugh the Bell Tolls, find diddly doo 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 doo. But it is the first moment that like I think Metallica like get the sort of this is like you could almost listen to this and go, there is one eye on like how is an audience going to react to this thing, because it just goes from like that bass solo to like the the little riff that sort of is the thing, and hey, it's and again, it's a Metallica song based on a book. It's based on an an Ernest Hemingway book about the Spanish Civil War against Franco, which obviously Hemingway and George Orwell both took part in, and was extremely violent. And it's Metallica doing the horrors of war, but it's where another heavy metal band, cough Iron Maiden, would go, here is like the grand panorama. It's like, no, we're in the middle of this and we're getting bombs dropped on us, and the Men of Five still alive, raging for in the bell tolls, and it's like, there is an immediacy that I don't, that carries on, particularly to sort of like, songs on later albums like Disposable Heroes, where it's like, very nice, Iron Maiden to write about, war and stuff. Here is like the experience of that happening. Please, can you like, there, perhaps because it is a group of younger men, and particularly, in the United States, where there is the things of there is an immediacy, I think, for other metal bands, or at least other bands outside the thrash metal thing. There's war seems to be a common theme in thrash metal. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, and it's of course with young men you don't have the feeling of like getting your limbs ripped off or something. Like I remember when I was a kid and everything was forums, and they would ask how you wanted to die, and it's like in the blaze of glory, and like, all this songs like, no, you don't. I want to die in my sleep, because you have never like felt, you know, like having a limb blown off, like being permanently paralyzed, or having PTSD nightmares. You haven't experienced this. Everything is a concept, and that it kind of feels like that here, and you know that it gets played in sports arenas. It has these wild, huge it has that huge chugging guitar riff, and it's like, and it's just like, it makes it feel like the most awesome thing ever.
Yeah. Oh no, there is, like, you know, there is still like the you know, the gung ho sensibilities. Like, you know, it's like, oh, you know, Metallica's book reports like a little bit like, war is hell, but this riff is amazing. It's like, no, you've completely missed what the book is about. I love For Whom the Bell Tolls. I think it's like one of my favourite Metallica songs. I mean, I think it's like, I think it's probably, I would say, like, there are other tracks. There are 2 other tracks I think that are the other highlights of this album. But this is definitely one of them, and this is like the first time that Metallica really seemed to realise they have, ironically for a song that was never released as a single, like a big hit on their hand.
It is very strange to me, like, because I was in the 90s, the first time I ever experienced this, like, was the Spawn soundtrack, because they...
Oh boy.
Yeah, it is a very weird version, because they would combined a DJ or an electronic artist with a metal artist or just a band, because they have Filter and the Crystal Method. They would have Marilyn Manson and the Sneaker Pimps, and of all things, Butthole Surfers and Moby. But in this one, Metallica and DJ Spooky. And I don't know too much about DJ Spooky, but that mix was not good, and it feels like a dub of the song more than anything else. Like, if you've ever heard what was it? No Protection, Radiation Ruling the Nation. It is like that version. Yeah. It is kind of that version of a song which doesn't accurately portray the song at all. So it took me a while to get to this, and of course, you know, going to football games, and, you know, even in high school, you could hear this song. Like, somehow it was allowed at a high school football game, even though it's like, I'm in the middle of Nebraska. It's, you know, metal is the devil's music, whatever else. And it's, we were at the end of the 90s. It's just like, nobody cares anymore. Let's just do this. We're the new generation, whatever.
I mean, the Spawn soundtrack is all sorts of fucking weird. I mean, it's like, you know, you then got like Satan, which ironically actually does sample the Butthole Surfers, Sweet Sweat Loaf, and there's just also, by the way, just Kirk Hammett just playing guitar on that. It's a very, ironically, actually, I think the best thing from the Spawn soundtrack, before we go back onto topic, is actually, ironically, the other thrash metal band on this, which is Slayer teaming up with Atari Teenage Riot, German electronic nutcases, and it's like, it's like, wait, this actually works. Why? Question.
Yeah, it is a strange album, and if you can
pick it up movie.
At like whatever, strange movie, definitely. But if you can pick it up for 99 cents just to listen to it once, and like, what the hell?
What was that?
Just what the 90s kind of were in commercial experimentation. Just let's slam 2 things that shouldn't go together but do, until we got the early 2000s of, you know, rap and metal. We had this electronic and metal.
And some of it worked, and some of it absolutely did not. And then you got like the flip side of this, which is like the Judgment Night soundtrack, which actually was pretty good in comparison. There's like, oh yes, and then we accidentally realized we'd created new metal, and oh god. Anyway, yeah. Ironically, actually, just one random little factoid. That bell is not a bell; it's actually an anvil, and it's being hit by Lars Ulrich.
Nice. That sounds like a Scandinavian thing.
Oh, hit the anvil, Lars. Okay, and so on and so forth. Moving swiftly on. Fade to Black, and this is where we get sort of like. This is the moment. So a lot of Metallica fans are like very cool about this nowadays, and you got to remember this is like the first time that people went, "What the fuck have you done here?" You know, it's like, you know, you've considered like all the rest of the tracks are like, you know, fast thrash sort of stuff, and then you get what is basically a nearly 7-minute ballad, and it's great. It's so this song has sort of, I feel, come in for a lot of like criticism, because it's like part of this, weirdly enough, comes about by, you know, well, I mean, James and Lars were obsessed with death in the 1980s. I mean, I think at this point, like, you know, if you haven't realized, like, death is like a predilection of Metallica's music. Yeah, the first 3 tracks have been, we're all going to die, I'm dying in the electric chair, and here is a book from the 1940s about a war in which we are dying. Death is sort of like, you know, a byproduct. You know, death seems to float around Metallica. I mean, they made an album called Death Magnetic, guys. They kind of have a predilection for songs about death.
Their lifestyle is the same as their death style.
Oh no. Not again. No more Saint Anger references, Joe.
Okay. I'll stop. It's the rule of jokes and references. The second time you go to the well, it's a little less funny, and then don't go to it the third time.
Fun tick tock. This is so partly it's like Lars and James are going, hey, death is we're totally obsessed with death, man. But also, it's like Metallica got their stuff nicked. Actually, this is I say that, and it's like, okay, there's a little bit more to it. So basically, one of the things that got nicked was James Hetfield's favorite Marshall amplifier. It was his favorite Marshall amplifier because it was the one his mother bought before she died. So it's like, yeah, there's a little bit more of, like, you know, a depth to it than, oh, my favorite amp got nicked, you know. And, you know, it's James, you know, obviously, you know, and all of this sort of emotion comes out in Fade to Black, which is, you know, Metallica being, you know, kicked out of their manager's house for drinking too much, and you know, it's a very pretty song. It's a very, you know, it's the first time, you know, obviously we've had moments of acoustic guitar on, you know, the album before, and obviously Metallica will pepper their thing, but it's sort of the first time that Metallica sit down and go, okay, we can use the sort of like the differentiation between amplified guitar and, you know, an acoustic guitar to do something, you know, musically interesting, and to create a tone that, you know, and we could slow everything down, and, you know, we could have, like, you know, the big end guitar moment, but it's like, you know, you know, we're trying to say something here, even if the lyrics of this are not great. You know, it's, again, this is like 20-year-olds trying to make sense of the world around them, and it's a, you know, it's a song I feel that's grown more, you know, more poignant over the years. Obviously, you know, considering, you know, one of the 4 composers on this obviously is no longer alive, and, you know, Metallica, James has gone through years of, basically being, at his lowest, and, he set himself on fire whilst playing this once. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is the one. Is this the one? This is the one that caused the riot, wasn't it? If I remember correctly, because he got burned, and then it's like...
I don't remember. I'm not a Metallica historian. Like I said, a force of nature for me. Yeah. So it's just like I don't know. It's weird that I've gone through the Napster thing and then some kind of monster thing, and like I have. It's weird to say I don't see the band as people, because of course I do. But it's like they, as a band and as they are portrayed, they are like legends, or like they are storytellers or something like that. Yeah. Because there's things like Nothing Else Matters. Like this would be something that follows up, or the beginning of one, and like that, like this certainly carves out that place, because when you're listening to a metal band, you want to just keep the feel going, and just to stop this is like, what are you doing, man? You're being a wuss. And it's like, no. And of course there's the other end of it, where hair metal bands try to be sincere and it just does not work at all, like Asia's Carrie or something like that. Yeah. So like I can see why, but there is that feeling, and especially with these albums where it's surrounded by it, that it doesn't go into the inside, where I don't know if you want to call it survivor's guilt. I don't know if that would have been coined at the time, or if they would realize it, but like everybody else is dying around it, and here's this one person who is just like, I am not me anymore, and everything around me is terrible. So, it's too late to save myself. So I feel that need, like it's a part that needs to be addressed, like the human side of all of this, that there's somebody in here, and it's not just like this glaze of like metal imagery.
Pure. There is a sincerity to it.
Yes.
Which I think, I feel you could say many things about Metallica, and where you could say, the whole of the 1990s, and you go, we're still out. Yeah, but it's like they never quite lost that sense of, Nothing Else Matters is it might be a love ballad, but it's still from the same band that went. Yeah, and it's like the same people will be going, oh man, you don't know why you... Pardon me, that voice does my fucking voice in. I'm gonna stop doing it. But you could say, why are we doing ballads now? It's like, we've been doing ballads for like 7-8 years. You complained about this last. You have no problem with this, when it was called Fade to Black. Why have you now got a problem with, Nothing Else Matters, even though it's the same, essentially the same formula, and it's
they have to be they have to be real. They have to be the big tough boys.
Yeah. Yeah, even though this is not a big tough boy song, it's like, it's like, hey, but the thing from this is, obviously, in over the 40 years that Metallica have, read this, since they did this. I mean, this song has been played a lot of times live. It's like, they, you get you'll get interviews with, one of the band, and it's like, somebody wrote to us and Fade to Black made them feel better, or in some cases saved their life. That you can say, it's corny and the lyrics are a little bit immature, but that's a hell of a thing to write and to be able to speak to people via a song. But it's
lends an authenticity to it, that this is the person singing it. And this wasn't prettied up or, given an extra pass by somebody to make it nicer, or feels like an authentic expression from a person.
We'll get to a song that did get prettied up shortly. And that is the end of side 1. By the way, this is the first of 2 tracks on the album written by all 4 of the band. Well done, guys. We start side 2 with another fast and actually the shortest track on the album, which is Trapped Under Ice.
And when you talk about the brittle sound, this is probably the most brittle, but of course they are trapped under ice, which is
they are trapped under ice.
Not so brittle because they can't escape it.
Yeah, I like Trapped Under Ice is like the perfect start of side 2 track. It's like that you get that riff at the beginning, and he said, I'm trapped under ice. I think actually Trapped Under Ice, actually, when Metallica went and played Antarctica, I think Trapped Under Ice might have got played.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
They did not play Trapped Under Ice. Disappointing. Very disappointing.
Yes.
Very disappointing. But no, Trapped Under Ice is great. It is the sort of like, it is brutally efficient, and it's like, it's that riff, that I'm trying to yeah.
Yeah. And of course they have other people underneath, which are like it feels like there are other people singing other than just being like one voice that is many voices. We are Legion or something like that. If you want to go with the
it's a nice effect.
Yeah.
It's good. They have only played this 28 times in 40 years. That works out at under 1 play a year. Which is kind of sad because it's a good song, but it's like,
I don't know if they're doing it at a concert, it can replicate the feel of it.
Yeah, unless you have the audience joining. It's like, it's another sort of like horror imagery. Metallica do seem to like their horror imagery, and they're cryogenically frozen. Oh no, I'm stuck under the ice, and it's quite cold down here, and I
can feel and see everything, but I cannot move.
Yes, it's almost like a theme they'll return to in a couple of albums' time. There's a lot of tracks on this that are like, you can sort of this isn't meant as an insult to Metallica. A lot of this feels like there are tracks that they will do on subsequent albums, which sort of like re-explore with a slightly better sort of sense of, here's how to write some really good lyrics, and here's how to convey imagery, and here's how to write a set of lyrics which goes with our blazing fast riffs a little bit more competently and such. I mean, Trapped Under Ice is great. I love Trapped Under Ice. It's disappointing that no ice hockey team just have this as their goal song. It would be very good. That was a completely random sequitur.
Go talk to the Seattle Kraken. Maybe they can do something.
That's more Nirvana territory. Anyway, the only thing I'd say against Trapped Under Ice is it's sort of like, it's the problem is that the back sort of half of this album has 2 really good tracks. And this, and it's like, oh yeah, Trapped Under Ice is on this half of the album. Yeah, it's like, yeah, this is good. Unfortunately, it's then followed by the worst album track on the album. Oh boy, shall we talk about Escape, Joe? Or have you got anything to say about Trapped Under Ice?
It's fine. I don't have really anything against it, but it is the one song where it feels like Metallica is reaching maybe beyond what they can grasp at this point. Just because, like, you can hear it in the lyrics, especially in the chorus, where he's trying to stretch his voice, and it's not really stretching the way he wants it to.
Yeah. James hates this song. This has been played, I think, live a handful of times. They did not play this in about 30 years and only played this when they were playing Ride the Lightning cover to cover. This is like of the big sort of trilogy of, you know, Ride the Lightning, Puppets, and Justice for All. This is probably the worst track on all three of those albums. It is very much. It doesn't set the problem. The problem isn't so much it's a bad song. Is it? Well, it is a bad. I mean, it is a weak song. It's basically here. Please write a single, Metallica, and then they wrote something that sounded like a single and decided they would rather not do that again. Yeah. The guitar solo on this is fine, but it's like the do 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 at the beginning is like, this doesn't sound like the rest of the album. It's like, this is far too upbeat. What are you doing? This is like, you know...
then there's the chorus where it's out for my own, out to be free, and free! And it's like, just like, it's...
James stretching his voice the whole
it's trying to stretch the emotion, and it isn't there. The emotion for whatever he's trying to do here isn't there. So it is fine if you were just listening to it and ignoring, like, anything, you know, about, like, trying to analyze it, trying to focus on it. It, like, it is fine, but the moment you think about it, it's like, what? This isn't working. Like, this is all strange.
Yeah. And then you got, like, Lars, who doesn't actually hate it, quote. So this is a quote from Lars in Metal Hammer magazine, which is a British heavy metal magazine. It's become this folklore that I hate escape. It's not true. It was the last song that was written for Ride the Lightning sessions, and it's purposely kept a little shorter than the other songs. We thought of it in the spirit of Iron Maiden's Run to the Hill, Judas Priest, Minute After Midnight. Dare I say the words, radio songs. So they kept it on the short time, and... Lars doesn't hate it, but James just like, no fun, not allowed. We're not playing it, Lars. And then they never played it for 30 years. It's fine. It is very much like, this is, you know, ironically considering this was not released as a single and has the lowest plays on Spotify. This is like the one that it's like, yes, this is meant to be the single, and was not released as a single. What precisely was the point of this exercise? Yes. I don't hate it. This is the thing. I don't hate it. It's just like, it's like the you know, but considering like the other track on, like, you know, Master of Puppets at point number 6 is Leper Messiah, which is like you know, the you know, so much better than this, and like, you know, the energy is like, you know, it is like the wake up, it's time for the fourth part of the album. It's like, you've been headbanging to this, hey we're gonna just have a little breather while you go, what am I listening to here?
And then welcome back. We're gonna put the energy back, and it's not quite there. Okay. What is this? What is this? I mean, there are worse songs, and I'm not gonna go back to the well again. We're like, wait, Metallica, what is this? What is this? Because even like I don't get into the album by album fight and what era Metallica, like, you can pull out a song from most of their eras and go, hey, this is really good to listen to on the radio. Thanks, I needed this. Like Fuel. Fuel is a really good song. I like it.
I like Fuel. I like Fuel.
But you'll get some other people like that's sellout Metallica, that's terrible, and it's just like, okay, but
I like it.
It's a really good Metallica song. Like this does not have that feeling. This just has.
Yeah.
It's. I don't know. They were reaching for something and they couldn't get to it, and they couldn't express what needed to be expressed for this song. But if you listen to it and just, it's weird to say listen to it and ignore it, but like listening to music is way different than like watching a movie or something, or watching a TV show. And like if you just listen to it as like a background music and don't try to absorb it, it's fine. If you pay particular attention to it, that's where you're gonna find the problems.
Yeah, in the sweep of like Ride the Lightning, it's fine. It's just like I cannot imagine this being played at like on your 5 p.m. like slot. This is like, bottom half of the Metallica individual songs, and it's like, it was like, no, put Freyd's End of Sanity on with the Winky chant from Wizard of Oz, and I was like, yay, everyone likes that. Everyone likes to go wee and so on and so forth. That's a Metallica song I like. I'm gonna go to bat for Frayed End of Sanity because it's great. It is too long by about 2 minutes, but that's everything on Injustice for All. Anyway, and then we come to the big two at the end of the album.
Creeping
Death. Creeping
Metallica goes to Passover.
Yep. Well, so this is like Metallica are not not complicated people. This is influenced by the Ten Commandments. The second one, the one with Charlton Heston on, and it's like, so Metallica are watching. So Metallica are watching this, and it's like, they get to the final plague, and it's like, and Cliff, probably from behind a miasmic cloud of cannabis smoke, just goes, "Hey man, that looks like creepy death, man," and the song title stuck. And Metallica write a song about from the perspective of the Angel of Death.
Although this would probably be their most Megadeth song, if at least from topic, because you could see Megadeth writing a song about the first Passover, and then it would be a completely different song than this. But this is where kind of like that topic intersects.
Yeah, this is like Metallica are. I think James is like a lapsed. Well, James obviously is brought up as a Christian Scientist, and like particularly the 90s Metallica stuff is like very much a God is absent, and one of the key themes that sort of hangs around Load and Reload, like from songs like Mama Sleeps, etc., is God is absent and things are bad, and religion, a fairly stark view on religion, and obviously you get songs like Leper Messiah, which obviously, are against televangelists, and so on and so forth. And, Metallica, as with a lot of heavy metal bands, their view of organised religion is fairly...
I have to do my duty as the son of a chemist. Christian Scientists aren't scientists. Just throwing that there, right there.
No, they are very important. Very important to note. They are not scientists. And I mean, if you've heard the song "Mama Sleeps," you know the We'll eventually talk about Load and Reload, which are actually quite good albums. I fucking love Creeping Death. It's great. It's the energy on Creeping Death is just like, this is the best track on the album. It's just that it has everything a Metallica song could want. Cool opening riff, done. Really cool audience participation bit. Hey, here's 20,000-30,000 people, including your bassist, screaming "die" at the top of their lungs as you go. You know so it has the bridge section. The bridge section goes, obviously which is apparently a Dave Mustaine riff, or Dave thinks it's one of his riffs, but it's like it's just this roiling thing, and it's across, and on top of that you've got basically live it would tend to be obviously with the band's bass. So obviously in this day and age it's Rob, but also you have the audience yelling "die" at the top of their lungs, and it's like, holy shit. This is so cool. It's and it's like, it has everything, it's and really good solos. It is the complete package of what a Metallica song should be. It's also their second most played song, behind only Master of Puppets.
Okay. I think it's fine. I don't know if it's just because it's near the end of the album, and you kind of get the sound. You have gotten this sound for most of the album, and you're just used to it, and so you kind of tune it out. And I don't know. There is one thing, and everybody can flame me for this, but it kind of has that 80s sound production where the die doesn't feel fully interfaced. It feels like it is a separate
dubbed
part.
On, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, dubbed on afterwards.
Dubbed on afterwards, and it's kind of similar to the like echoing voices in underneath the ice or under the ice. So there is that kind of thing that you only know this if you just like your brain hears it and can't unhear it, and you've gone through it. Like most people aren't going to notice this, but I either can't tell which layer is which on certain things, or I can't not hear it without layers. And this is one where I can like feel the layers, and like I can tell they're, I don't want to say disjointed, but it doesn't feel like it's all totally there. And it's a young band. This is their second album. They're broke, and I'm not gonna hold that against them. It's just there's just not. I mean, it's the full package when it's what you want, but in delivery, at least on the album version, I mean, I'm sure the live is just killer.
Oh, the live version. So but there is a fantastic live version. I mean, all of Metallica's live releases tend to be great, but it's the live version, which is Seattle 1989 on the beautifully named Live Shit, which is just is just typical Metallica. This is one of the few songs I think. It's going to sound like a really backhanded compliment. This is one of the songs that Jason absolutely just ruled. It's just, you got Jason Newsted, who is like, has a very, who's basically like death metal growling die, and it's far better mixed in the thing, because he's got the basic, his mic is mixed, in such a way that it's obviously behind, the big amps behind, and it's like, that is terrifying. That is, and I feel weirdly, this is gonna sound like another back catalog. This song works better live, which should indicate the quality of it as a piece of music. Even better live than on album, because it's like you have that audience participation bit, and it's like when you are in a large arena with 40,000 people all shouting "die," it kind of like goes, holy shit, you have a, where else can you find this but in heavy metal?
Absolutely. Like I have very little live experience just because I am kind of a shut-in, and I'm broke all the time, so I have to pick and choose. But like when you go to live, you understand why certain songs are the way they are, like why they're anthemic or whatever else. once you hear people singing along to it or people shouting along to it. And
yeah,
I learned that of all things with the Midnight and their album Heroes, which is very thin from their other albums. If you don't consider it's supposed to be an anthem and it's supposed to be post-pandemic where you're supposed to sing this with a bunch of people. And then when you get with a bunch of people, you hear it and it's like, oh shit, this just clicked for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, there is a quality to Metallica's, like, stuff. I mean, obviously, you know, I feel part of it is because Metallica, you know, are probably the premier, you know, stadium metal band left, really, now, but unless you're South American, and bloody hell, when the South Americans sing along to Iron Maiden, it's bloody loud. They'll even like seriously, there's the you know, the Rock at Rio, which is obviously, you know, when, you know, Iron Maiden are basically playing Rio Beach because they are no venues large enough to fit them, and the people aren't just singing along with the lyrical components, they're singing like the opening riff to like Fear of the Dark, like the opening chord. It's just like, okay, that's fucking awesome. Heavy metal can be like that sometimes. I made a very
it's very hard to do because then you get the Beavis and Butthead, which is why one of them has a Metallica shirt, because that is what we sound like when we try to imitate the riffs.
I am not Michael Winslow from Police Academy. I cannot imitate a guitar that well. I made a very slight mistake actually earlier. This is one of Kirk's riffs from Exodus, which kind of brings us to the best song on the album.
You said that a couple times.
Okay, my favorite song on the album, which is the final track. This is like the second. So obviously Cliff does a little bass solo on Kill 'Em All. This is like the first example of Metallica's big, you know, epic instrumental pieces, because they do like they did these obviously on, you know, the thrash trilogy, so to speak, and obviously they brought them back obviously on more recent albums. This is the Call of Cthulhu, and it's spelled Kutulu, because apparently if you spell it in the correct format, that brings the Dreadlord Cthulhu closer. Just in case you were wondering.
Okay.
So,
right,
yeah, and if this sort of like indicates anything, it's like, this is where Metallica are heading musically. It's like, hey, this is the longest track on the album. It's essentially like a musical tone poem. You know, it's
this like sort of like Forevermore. It's their battle for Evermore, I think.
Yeah, sans lyrics, but it's like, you know, obviously, compare it to like, you know, Orion on Master of Puppets, but Orion like has like a heft, and you know, it's basically, here is like an 8-minute band workout, and Cliff gets to do this like awesome bass shit over the top. This like feels almost progressive. This is like, you know, there is
there's storytelling through music.
Yeah. And, you know, and this is where Cliff's second bass solo rocks up on the album, because, that's not a guitar. That is a bass being run through a wah pedal, as he did on, obviously, For Whom the Bell Tolls, and it's like, you know, just ripping away at the bass solo. This is also where this is obviously Dave Mustaine's last confirmed credit on like a Metallica record, which, you know, is a hell of a way to go out. It's like, I've just given you this intro riff, and I'm gonna use this in about a decade hence. This also won a Grammy when Michael Kamen rearranged it for S&M in 1999. I fucking love this song. It's just like, this is like, there is so much going on like over this 8 and a bit minutes, and it's got, you know, some of my favorite, you know, Metallica musical moments, and it's like, you know, the imagery this sort of conjures, you know, this is almost like, you know, that whole Fantasia, you know, Total Music sort of thing, you know, it's like, this is what a metal band can do when you give them space and you give them, you know, the talent of somebody, you know, like Cliff Burton, who, you know, understood classical composition, and you go, right, now we can build something truly impressive.
And we can do this like the big bands do this.
Yeah, this is like, you know, this is, you know, this is like, it's almost like, you know, the gauntlet thrown down, and it's go, right, try that, try, you know, this is what we can do, bring it.
Yeah, and it does feel right that Dave Mustaine did help on this, because it does feel like one of those Megadeth solos that goes on for 8 minutes, and it's the whole song.
Yeah, but it's just the riffs on this are just that and the scale of it is like, you know, yeah, of course it's bloody, of course it's gonna, you know, you can attach the H.P. Lovecraft mythos to it. I mean, we're not going to get into H.P. Lovecraft's politics or whatever. But
or what his cat's named or anything.
No, else. Don't Google that.
Don't Google that. Don't Google that.
Don't Google. But it's just like this is like, I have to say this. You know, this is, you know, this is where like the crude stuff of heavy metal sort of like gets sculpted into something quite beautiful, actually. You know, it's like, you know, it's the scale of this is like spectacular. You know, this is a beautiful piece of music. You know, you know, you don't have to like, you know, you can add a symphonic, you know, an orchestra to this, and it meshes, and I think it's still the best track on S&M, by the way. You know, where that orchestral thing, you know, the vision of Cliff Burton to go, and the rest of Metallica to go, you know, yeah, this is gonna be, this is, you know, a symphony with guitars, you know, and it meshes in, and it's like, and it finishes the album on such a high that it's like, yeah, this is, you know, supremely confident ending to a record.
Yeah,
it's like,
I think S&M was the closest Metallica album I've ever came to owning, just because it was the conductor and I imagine arranger was Michael Kamen, may he rest in peace, who is one of the underrated composers. Like, I like his X-Men themes way more than I like John Ottman's, which would come later, and he's, you know, the editor for those movies as well, John Ottman. So, so that's how he kind of got the job after Michael Kamen died, and I don't like his version of the X-Men theme, but like Michael Kamen's is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like, you know, it's, you know, there is, you know, you know, you can go back to like things like Deep Purple's, you know, a concerto for orchestra, and but it's like, but that's sort of like twiddly progressive stuff to mesh the sort of the muscularity of Call of Cthulhu to an orchestra and make it work and make it sort of like, you know, click together is quite a feat. What else can we say about this record? This is the thing. I feel like Metallica sort of like have almost like a Beatles Sgt. Pepper Revolver thing. You know, I know people who go, you know, I know metalheads, I know people who, you know, will listen to, you know, everything, and they will go, yeah, Master of Puppets is the critical whatever high mark, but this is like, you know, this is such a leap forward that it's sort of like, it's astonishing. It's like, considering like a year before they were doing it, they were doing basically chuggy, stuff that basically sounded like a very good, basement live band. And now it goes, oh yeah, we've basically done this album that, ends with this sort of almost symphonic metal sensibility, and this like nearly 9-minute ending track that hasn't got a single vocal line on it. That is like basically like
that
the
is
space
going from kids to legends in one album.
Yeah, and Puppets, I feel we're going to eventually, we're inevitably going to come back and talk about Master Puppets in 2026, because
I don't doubt it.
Holy shit, that's a record. But there is this argument, is Ride the Lightning a better album? I feel, and this is going to be, I prefer Master of Puppets. Master of Puppets doesn't have a bum note on it. It is, as I said earlier, it is perfect. It is a perfectly made record. It is, the high point, I think, of thrash metal as a genre. Ride the Lightning is a great leap forward of a record, but it is still, it is a product of a more mature band. But it still like does, you gotta, you flip that cover around and you look at the back and they're like, spotty 20-somethings, and it's like, there is still an adolescence. There is still an adolescence to Ride the Lightning,
and it has that 70s metal band feel, like what they're wearing. Like I said, it looks like their characters from This Is Spinal Tap. And they wouldn't become that until Some Other Monster, which is their actual documentary.
yeah, and this is the thing, but I love Ride the Lightning, but if you put me on a desert island, you go, you can take one Metallica album with you. I'm sorry, it's going to be Puppets every time. I have a respect for this record. It is an astonishing feat to to go from basically scrappy kids to this in a year, and then to basically all conquering maestros of heavy metal in another 2 years. But it is like, but there is there is a charm, there is undeniably a charm to that scrappiness. There is a charm to it. It's it is strange to see. I hate to keep comparing Metallica to the Beatles, but I think it's like to see them like mid transformation, to have this document of a band still in flux, a band still working out their sound, and where not everything works is as fascinating as the perfection that is Master of Puppets.
Yeah, and I can tune in on that, because I like Revolver better than Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, even though Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is probably the better album. But it like, sometimes with Sgt. Pepper it goes too out there, and Revolver is just like sudden evolution, and suddenly you get it starts with Taxman, which is just this tight, unstoppable riff, and everything is completely controlled, everything is completely perfect. And it's like, wow, holy shit. And you can get that feeling with the start of this album, as you said. So,
and then
I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah, and then it goes off into more cerebral and stranger climbs, and eventually, like Tomorrow Never Knows, you are in somewhere new and weird and exciting, in a word.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I can't, obviously I don't have much experience with just listening to Metallica as an albums band. It would be me putting together a mixtape of my favorite Metallica stuff.
Yeah. Oh, completely.
And For Whom the Bell Tolls would probably make it on there easy, but me doing this, I would obviously miss things like Call of Cthulhu and, you know, all of that good stuff they've done. I probably should. I mean, I'm on a podcast talking music, but like, you know, for some things of this, I like taking it as the person who knows everything, and then there's me experiencing this for the first time, and that's fun. And then there are some things like Oasis where we both were just like flooded with it in our youth. So, you know, we can share that experience. And
indeed.
So, I mean, it's like, okay, I am not anything. I am a phony everything. I do not belong anywhere. So, I'm not a real music person. I'm not a real games person. I'm not a real movies person. I'm not a real anything. And that's okay. So, exactly. I am that. But, you know, it's just sharing that experience, I think, is the difference.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, next episode we are going to be very much in your half of the court, because we're talking about Portishead next, which should be interesting. But you know, as I said, I feel this is, you know, Metallica, I think, hold a particular part in basically just rock psyche. You know, and this is the moment they started this sort of this lofty climb to being, well, it took quite a lot of large steps toward, you know, the top of it, you know, being that band.
But although first, just to kind of wrap this up, we have to go into what's kind of both of our wheelhouse, which would be Paul's Boutique.
That's 2 days ago, Joe. That's 2 days ago.
Oh, 2 days ago. Okay. Like, oh no, you've caught us. We are recording this before we are recording the next thing.
Yes. Yes. Oh no.
It's out of order. Oh no.
We've done this out of sequence. Oh no.
Continuity. Continuity. Come on, help me here.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, so what are we talking about next episode, Joe? Well, next anniversary episode. Hopefully, we will go and talk about another angry record, which will be My Chemical Romance 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge at some point. We're going to get better at doing number of episodes. What are we talking about next anniversary episode, Joe?
We're talking about Portishead's Dummy, which is
Portishead.
Yes. So it's going to get a little more relaxed, a little more melancholy, and
Joe's going to talk a lot more.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a lot more, and it's going to get a little more strangely groovy. Even though it's really goddamn sad.
Yeah. Anyway, so that will be our next episode, and hopefully by the time you hear the Portishead episode, we will have talked about MCR. We might have even have done another anime episode by that point. I don't know. We'll work that out. Anyway, we do anime episodes too. So
you have to break it up, because otherwise, my ADHD, if I do one thing over and over, I get burned out. So it's partially for my sanity, even though it's like, what's the audience for this? But it keeps us going.
The format will remain the same, because I like it as well. It's nice to talk about multiple things on a podcast rather than, hey, it's another, you know, B-52's album. Anyway, so we'll be talking about Portishead next episode. We can be found on Twitter at NotSoFinalProd, and on Patreon at the Thom and Joe Show. Thom is spelled with a H. The episodes, you know, obviously will go up there first, and so if you are listening to this, you know, go subscribe to the Patreon, and you know, recommend we talk about, you know, I don't know, Lulu. We could talk about Lulu.
Oh God, no. or the other thing, which I'm promised I wouldn't reference again, but you know, you could suggest that. And also we have tiers to, like, if we get paid enough, we will do things. Yeah. Sometimes painful things, so you can make us do that as well.
Yep. We will if paid enough talk about Kirk Hammett's solo album Portals. Portals is actually a really good solo album. Actually, there's a lot of, you know, a lot of that sort of sonic sound space. So maybe it's like, you know, hey, we could talk about that, even though it's only an EP.
A lot of space.
Anyway, we will see you on the next Thom and Joe episode. Until next time,
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Hopefully I am less like Paul on David Letterman next time. Ironically, talking about Paul. Paul's boutique. Well, we just did. I screwed it up again.
I pressed the wrong button.